Good day, students. I am by name Masun today. I will be taking in agricultural science. In our last lesson, we discussed wheat. We look at the characteristics of wheat. We look at the definition. We look at the economic importance of wheat, and then we look at the control method. Today, we are going to look at another topic. We are going to discuss crop pests. We are going to look at pests. Pests. A pest is any animal which damages crops or livestock. Any animals which damages crops or livestock is considered as a pest. Any animal that causes damage to our crops or livestock is considered as pests. Like the mammals, the birds, the insects. The mammals include the rat, the rabbit, and the rest. The birds, the koala bird, and the rest. Insects and others. These are. Now let's look at the classification of insect pests. Let's look at insects. We said we classified them based on the nature of their mouth part. That is their mode of feeding. We have the biting and chewing insects. This group of insects have well-developed mouth part adapted for biting and chewing leaves and other plant tissues, such as the seed, fruit, and flowers. They have a well-developed mouth part that they are capable of biting and chewing the plant tissues or the seed or fruit of the crops. Now the second one, we have the piercing and sucking insects. Piercing and sucking insect pests. We said members of this group have mouth part adapted for piercing plant tissues and sucking the content of the plant tissue. They will pierce inside the plant and then suck the content, that is the liquid part of the plant. Therefore, they destroyed our crops. We also look at the boring insect pests, mostly weevils. The boring insect pests are mostly what? Weevils. They're like the rice weevils, the beans weevils, and then maize weevils, and the rest. We have different weevils. They eat up the grains, reducing them to powdery residues. These ones, they eat up the grains. Mostly they attack grains. Let's look at the importance, field and storage pests of our crops. We have the field pests, those pests that attack our crops on the field. Example like the stem borers, the root-eating insects, fruit seed feeders, non-insect pests, which include the goat, the monkeys, the bat, squirrels, and the rest of them. These are non-insect pests, but these pests attack our crops on the field. Now let's look at the storage pests, the ones that they attack our crops in the store. We have the weevils and beetles. We have rats, cockroaches, and the rest. These pests attack our crops. Let's look at the effects of crop pests on the yield of our crops. What happened to the yield of the crops? Now, the heavy attacks by pests may result in total crop failure. Once if there is pest attack, it reduces the crops, and they will also lead to total crop failure. Take for instance, like once if the farm is attacked by pests, like the locusts or the koala bird, definitely they will now eat up everything, and then at the end of the day there will be total crop failure. Then pests reduces the quality and quantity of crops. Yes, take for instance like fruit and other crops. Once if they are attacked by pests, okay, they reduce the quality of the pest, and then the quantity of that. They reduce the quality of the crops, and then the quantity of the crops is also reduced. Infested seeds usually have low germination capacity. Yes, they affect the seed. If you plant it, it will not germinate, or sometimes it will just germinate as if, because the insects or the pests attacks and destroy the embryo of the seed embryo. Now some insects like aphid transmit diseases to crops. One of the effects is that some insects, they transmit diseases. Most of the diseases of these crop diseases are transmitted by insects and other birds and the rest. Insect pest control costs time and labor. They cost time. You have to spend your time in controlling the pest, and also labor. It's also laborious for you to control the pest. Let's look at the method of controlling these pests. Method of pest control and pest management. We have the cultural method. Cultural method of controlling pests. This cultural method, we said these are methods which involve the use of very good farming practices to reduce the numbers of pests and their damage to crops. You can adopt a good farming practice to reduce the pest attack, like crop rotation, plowing, timely harvesting, early planting, resistant varieties. You can plant resistant varieties to reduce the pest infestation. Timely harvesting. Once the crop is due for harvest, go and harvest it. And early planting, it also reduces it also controls the pests on our farms. You plant it early, and once it's matured and is due for harvest, you harvest it. These are cultural methods of reducing pests or controlling pests. Another one is the physical control method. The physical control method involves the use of hands, the use of physical means to reduce the numbers of pests, the number of pests. Now you can now go to the farm and handpick them. You go to the farm and handpick the pests and kill them. You can also use scarecrow. You use scarecrow to scare them away from the farm. You can also use traps, to control the pests. Take for instance like monkeys and others. Once if they are the monkeys, squirrels and whatever, you can use trap to control them. These are physical methods. Use trap. You can also use wire netting. You also use wire, and you can also fence the farm. You can fence it. It's also a physical method of controlling pests. Another method is a chemical control method. The chemical control method is one of the effective means of controlling pests. The chemicals used in controlling pests known as the pesticide. And the chemicals usually work in different ways, as stomach poisons, contact poison, fumigators, fumigants, and nematicides. So these ones are used in different. You can use it as contact chemical. Once it touches the pest, it will kill the pest. You can use it as stomach poison. Once if they eat the crop or they eat the chemical, they will die. These are chemical control. These are chemical control methods of pests. And then another one is the biological control method. This one involves the introduction of the natural enemies of the pest. You introduce the natural enemies of the pest to control the pest on the farm. Take for instance, you can use predators. You can use parasites or pathogenic organisms that cause disease in pests and kill them. You can use those organisms, living organisms, predators. Take for instance, if like monkeys, you can use dogs to control them. You can use dogs like squirrels. You can use dogs. You can use like koala bears. You can use dogs and other animals to control them on the farm. You can also use pathogenic organisms. Once if they attack the pests, they will kill them. These are biological control method of pests. Then you can quarantine the farm. Quarantine. This is a period of isolation. You can isolate and observe the observation imposed by law on imported seeds. Once if there is importation of any crop, that crop should be isolated. That is, you quarantine it. You isolate the crop and observe it for some certain period of time before taking it to your farm or whatever. These are methods of controlling. You can use that method to control pests. On importations, at times they import pests like rats and the rest. They can import them, but once if you quarantine them, you can control them. Another one is the use of botanical products. You use botanical products to also control pests, like the neem tree. You can use neem tree. These are their extract. You extract the natural chemicals that are harmful to pests. You extract it from the trees and then you use it to control pests. Take for instance, if you want to store like grains, you can use these extracted chemicals from the tree and then you use it to control or store. These are the methods of controlling pests on the farm. We have come to the end of our lesson. You can meet me on this. You can reach me on this contact number or WhatsApp number. You can WhatsApp me on this line 080-3367-3371. That's the end of our lesson for the day.